Hi, I'm Carolyn Federman, and I am so honored to be on the Farm to Shelf program from the Berkeley Public Library. And I'm here at the library live with my Charlie cart, and I am going to make some pesto for you today. Pesto is really simple, and I know a lot of people buy pesto. Has basil, salt, garlic, olive oil, and cheese, and pine nuts. But we're making a different variation of pesto today that has no cheese and no pine nuts. So it's just really simple and straightforward, and it'll just take you a few minutes to make right in your kitchen. So I want to start by showing you the ingredients. We have basil, and then I brought some other herbs because if you don't have enough basil, you can mix in almost any herb will be great in this. So I've got parsley and cilantro today, and my basil is looking a little sad. You can see like the leaves are starting to go brown there, and so this is a great time to use it up in this sauce that I can either use right away or keep in the refrigerator or freeze also. So those are my herbs. I've got garlic. I'm only going to use a clove, but I brought a few because they look pretty. I have salt and olive oil. I'm going to make the pesto in a mortar. I love using a mortar, especially when you're cooking with kids, because it is so tactile. Also, it doesn't need batteries. There's no blades that need to be sharpened. It's never going to break unless you throw it across the room, and even then, I don't think it would break. So mortar and pestle is super handy. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is pick the herbs. And this is a great job for kids in the kitchen. And when we say pick the herbs, we literally mean pick the leaves from the stem. So this is just going to take a couple of minutes, and I'm going to fill about 2 cups, loosely packed, of the fresh leaves. And if I run out of basil, I'm going to go ahead and add some of that parsley and maybe some cilantro today too. So we never use the stem of the basil because it can be really bitter and spicy, too spicy. Another thing to note about this basil is you see how giant the leaves are. When you pick the basil, earlier, the leaves are smaller and they're sweeter. So it's better if you can get that basil before it's sort of overgrown like this. Okay, so we're going for about 2 cups. Okay, then I'm going to chop up my herbs. And I'm going to do that by first chiffonade the basil. So I'm going to stack the leaves, roll them up, get my knife, and I'm making ribbons. It's called chiffonade. And kids absolutely love that word, and they love to do that, to create those ribbons. And then I'm going to go ahead and chop it even further. It's a lot faster to do this with your knife than to try to grind them all down in the mortar and pestle. So the finer you chop the herbs, the easier your job will be when you get it into the mortar. Good. And this is going to shrink down a lot, so it's really only going to make a single serving. So let's put it in our mortar, and then we're going to clean up just a bit. So I've got my mortar. I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I like to use kosher salt because it's a little bit bigger than normal table salt, and you'll see that actually helps with grinding down the herbs. And then we're going to get our clove of garlic. And we're just going to chop off the very ends. So that we can peel the clove. Sometimes they peel really easily when they're a bit older and dried out, and sometimes it takes a tiny bit more effort, but what we're trying to do is have a nice clean piece of garlic that doesn't have nicks in it when you start. All right. And then I'm going to mince the garlic. The garlic wants to be minced really fine because it's really unpleasant to bite into a big chunk of raw garlic. So we're going to mince that really finely. Okay. All right, now I've got the garlic, the herbs, and the salt, and I'm going to use the pestle. And I like this pestle because it has ridges inside, so that really helps with breaking things down. So this takes just a couple of minutes. And again, you want to watch out for the garlic. I mean, that is just the main thing, to make sure that those pieces of garlic are getting well integrated with your herbs. You don't want any big pieces of garlic. And then I'm going to add the oil. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon to start. Mix that in. And it's good too. This is really fun for kids because it takes a little bit of elbow grease. And you can see the texture is changing. Now I'm going to add another tablespoon of oil. And I like to use, when I'm making just a small batch of pesto, I like to use this rubber spatula because it shrinks down so much that, you know, every little bit is precious and I don't want to lose any of it. So I use this tool to make sure that I get all of it, and then you can scrape down the sides and push it all together so it's easier to work with. So I'm almost done. See how fast that was? And then my last tablespoon of olive oil. And this is a really forgiving recipe, so if you like it stronger garlic, if you like it saltier, it's just so easy to change it. If you want it herbier, if you want it oilier, it's just easy to add a little bit more of whatever you need. And when you're done, you can just spoon it into a mason jar and you can put it in the refrigerator. It'll keep for a couple of weeks, or in the freezer, and it'll keep for months in the freezer. And you can do it in, these are little 3-ounce servings, so it's perfect for pasta or whatever you need. Or you can give it away to a friend. Like I'm going to give it to the people who work at the library. All right.